What we have today is a Mercedes SL500. It's a 95. It only has 66,000 miles on it, but I can promise you this engine has never been detailed. I'm at one of the dealers I do work for. I'm going to take you in, I'm going to show you how dirty this engine is and just show you the techniques that I use. As a rule, when I'm doing engines, it's going to be reduced down to essentially two products. My Meguiar's super degreaser diluted down 4 parts to 1, which means 4 parts water to 1 part concentrate. Now, if it's not too bad, I'm just going to use a sprayer like this. If there's a lot of spraying to be done, all I use is this typical weed killer press. You know, you just pump it and it pressurizes it. So this is the same formulation, my super degreaser diluted down 4 to 1. Then I had my rapid remover, and you can find all these links. Just check the show more box underneath this video. There'll be links to my site. You can get this stuff yourself. I know in many videos I use this product. It's water soluble. It's an all natural product. It's far more effective on heavy grease and oil than even the super degreaser is. Now, as I said, it has 66,000 miles on it, and we can see the excessive buildup of dirt on this. I mean, it's pretty bad. I've already begun to spray the rapid remover on these areas that I've picked out, like in here, all along here. Actually, now I look at it, it's likely the power steering. Point is there's just heavy layers of grease and very thick oil and grease on this. So I've already begun to use or to pre-treat it with my rapid remover, because this has a dwell time, which means the longer you let it sit, you can see it working already. And it literally just dissolves that oil. I mean, the stuff is just the best degreaser I've ever found. And I use it on a case by case. It's very expensive. It's about 55 bucks a gallon. And I can go through a couple gallons a month because I use it in so many applications and in so many ways, because it's just so effective. I use it on the interior of cars, on the carpeting, anywhere there's grease. And what's cool is it's water soluble. So I absolutely love this stuff. But like everything else in life, you got trade-offs, because that's pretty expensive as far as chemicals go, at least in this part of the world. Now, I don't use a pressure washer, as most of you know. I don't carry one around with me. But with these chemicals and a little agitation from a brush like this, I don't need a pressure washer, and that's how I keep it simple. That means one less piece of equipment I have to carry around, one less piece of equipment I have to service. If it's a gas-powered pressure washer, I don't have to carry a separate gas tank for it. I never have to worry about filling it up with gas. If it's electric, that just means one less piece of equipment. So everything has its trade-offs, and that's where you have to decide for yourself the constraints of your rolling detail operation. Maybe you're working out of a car and it's not even an option to carry extra equipment in it. Maybe you have a van, a truck, and then it is an option, but maybe you can't afford it because you're starting out on a shoestring budget. Whatever. You know, it's always about finding that winning combination. I just like to show you guys what I consider the winning combination is and what works in my world, with the goal of getting from point A to point B quicker, easier, and with better results, which, if you get that right, is just going to produce more profitability for you into your pocket. Okay, first I treated it with the rapid remover. Now I've treated it with the super degreaser directly over the rapid remover. I've allowed the rapid remover to do its dwell time and to do its job. Now I'm going to get the rest of the engine bay with the super degreaser. And this is where you need to accept certain limitations. This engine has never been detailed, so there's going to be parts to it that will not come out perfectly, like these metal parts. And by the way, I had someone make a comment about it rusting and this and that. None of these parts are going to rust, okay? There's not exposed. If you go around, every fastener is either been painted or it's made out of galvanized metal. I mean, everything, but rust is not an issue by introducing water onto an engine, okay? And when I'm done, I'm going to blow this off with a blower and start the engine up and make sure we have 100% dry when I'm done with this engine. At this point, I'm simply going to rinse it off with regular tap water, hose water, call it whatever you want. Now I'm going to do a visual inspection, and once again I want to deliver a good result here, but because of the customer, the age of the car, what he's paying, this is where you as a professional have to decide, okay, what's the winning combination as far as how much time and effort you put into it and what you're charging and what the customer's expectations are. So I know on this moment we're not looking for absolute perfection. So by that, what I mean is that I want to be able to stand back at about 5 feet and look at this engine and have it look very clean and detailed. So I'm going to look for some obvious stuff, and so far what I'm seeing is right in here there's some obvious buildup of heavy-duty grease. So I'm going to treat this area with some rapid remover and break this down even further. But so far that's the only area of concern that I'm seeing that is staring out at me that I need to address further. This is all clean down in here because I know that once I blow this off, shoot a little aerosol dressing on it, this car is going to look beautiful, or this engine. So I finished another treatment of the rapid remover right in here. Now I'm just going to hose it off. And now I'm good to go. Now I'm going to blow this off with my leaf blower. So now I've blown it off. Let me show you what I do now. Is I'm going to take a microfiber and I'm just going to wipe up any residual water spots. Like I said, I use tap water, city water, whatever you want to call it. So water spotting is an issue for me, but it's a simple fix. And this is what I'm doing right here, is I'm simply fixing it by not allowing it to dry in the direct sun, even though we have cloudy conditions today. We're actually due for some rain, believe it or not, here in California. We're in one of the worst drought periods, and I know the news media is hyping it up, and you probably think that we're washing, like doing sponge baths here in California because we just don't have any water. Well, that's just absolutely not the case. Trust me, as a rule, we live in chronic drought mode here in California. So a couple things I want to address is, for example, this hood. It's so old and weathered that this just wants to deteriorate and fall apart the moment you touch it. So this is where I apply some common sense, and I'm not even going to get this wet because look how crappy it looks already. Officially, this should all be scraped off and replaced, but once again, does that make sense for a car this old? The answer is, as a rule, no it doesn't. And then back here, look at this fibers. This firewall padding is all getting deteriorated and is falling apart. Yes, this is wet. It's not an issue, but this is where I apply some common sense, and I'm not going to blast my hose or my pressure washer directly at this and cause it to fall apart even further. Am I going to do anything about this as a detailer? Well, the answer is no, because Johnny customer doesn't require it. He accepts the limitations. He's not looking for perfection, but he would like to get the engine cleaned up so it does look better than before. Right now, it's already raised it probably 80%. By the time I start this up, allow all the moving parts to dry completely and dress it, it's going to be at a level 8.5, 9 at that point anyways. So long as you don't look up there though, right? So that's what I say. If you don't like what you're seeing, just look somewhere else or pull back far enough till you don't see it anymore. How about that? Now the engine has been taken to finished completion. I've blown it off. I've ran the engine for about 10 minutes, made sure all the moving parts are dried out. Now when it comes to aerosol dressings on the engine, this is my go-to products versus a heavier traditional tire dressing. It's a fine mist, it's aerosol. Now something to note is that on any of these cans, and there's so many choices, they will all say flammable. But I'm no chemist, but in my experience, that flammability is more about the propellant used to compress this and force it out of the can. And I've never had an issue in it or with it in 25 years of using this stuff. Now as a rule, everything has its trade-offs. I still prefer Stoner because it comes out the lightest as far as thin, light coating, but any of them are really suitable for this. If there's too much shine, you can simply take a microfiber and knock it down a little bit, even it out. It's totally up to you, but they're really meant to just spray and walk away from. Let's come in tighter for a closer inspection. And I think that we have above acceptable results here based on the car itself, the year, the mileage, the fact that it's never been done. So another additional word of caution is that after I spray the flammable aerosol dressing on it, I do not start up the engine immediately. It's like gasoline. I don't know if any of you know this, but gasoline, the vapors, is what's really the flammable part. Yes, will gasoline burn once it gets ignited? Of course it will. But it's the vapors themselves that's the real flammable issue and the real cautionary moment when it comes to gasoline. So the same is probably holds true with these type of aerosol dressings, where if I held a lighter and I sprayed it directly at the lighter, because there would be enough fumes emitting from that, it would create a little blowtorch. But there's no open flames here. Does the engine get hot? Of course it does. But as far as the vapors dissipating, this is what's going to happen, because now, and this goes into the area of proper steps and procedures, is I know that once I spray that dressing, there's going to be overspray that floats around in the air. No matter how windy or still the air is, it's going to float and land somewhere. And I guarantee it will land on the glass and the paint. So this is now the proper sequence, is doing the dirty work first, then the finished work on the engine, and then I move to the outside to remove any overspray and finish the paint, the wheels, the tires, the glass, in that particular order. So I'm done with the engine, I'm done with the car. I want to add a couple notes. Virtually every aerosol dressing and every one that I ever use on an engine is flammable, highly flammable. So you may question is like, well, that doesn't even make sense, Darren. Why would you use it on the car engine? So use it at your own risk. I've done it for 25 years, never had a problem. I do it on a cool engine. After I blow it off, I allow the engine to run. I also allow it to cool down. I dress it with an aerosol dressing. If you're just not comfortable with it, go with a water-based like hyper dressing from McGuire's, diluted down so it's thinner versus thicker. Also as a note, because I'm here at the service place that actually services these mechanically, and the owner of the shop informed me that water can get down into this cover here and foul the engine out. And all that means is that there's water interfering with the spark that's going to from the coil to the spark plugs themselves. He says it's not an issue. I personally have never had a problem with it. He says that they're sealed watertight, but that's why I caution on a car this old, which this is a 95, and it's got 66,000 miles on it, which I realize is very low, but the car was filthy. So that's why I say on modern day engines, the electrical connectors, the covers, the shrouding, everything. It really is watertight, and I just have never had a problem with it. But there's always exceptions to the rule, so that's why I apply a little common sense, and I don't oversaturate the engine with degreaser. I just use enough to do the job. I'm not here watering it like it's a plant, thinking it's going to grow. Okay, so I'm not using gallons and gallons of water. I just use enough to rinse off my chemicals that I need to rinse off. Then I blow it off with a blower that's going to blow out virtually 98% of that water, and that's where I allow it to run and operate and heat up to normal operating temperatures so that it's finished, so that it dries it to completion. Then I allow it to cool down. Then I dress it with an aerosol dressing because it's just so quick to spray that aerosol on it. Once it attaches to the surface, it dries, all the vapors have dissipated into the air. It really is just a non-issue. As a rule, engines do not open with as a rule, engines do not operate as an open flame. All the firing, the spark, the gas, everything's contained within the combustion chamber and so forth. So you have no open flames exposed to this. Yes, the engine heats up, but it's not going to heat up to the point where it's actually going to start anything on fire. Hence, we've got plastics, rubber, all types of materials in here that by nature are flammable, okay? But they can endure a lot of heat. Same with the spray dressings. But if you expose it to a direct open flame, of course the thing's going to catch on fire, just as the plastics and rubber and other types of materials contained within the engine bay are going to do. So that's where I like to apply some rational thinking and pull back and kind of examine the greater picture and think, well, wait a minute, there's already flammable parts in here that will burn, but are they going to ignite under normal operating conditions? Well, my simple answer is no, they're not. And I'm just speaking from experience also, where I've just never had a problem.